Hey guys, welcome back to Discovering an Educated Life. This is Megan, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I plan a week in my Erin Condren planner using Sonlight. So first, now that I'm on my page, these, they're almost like fake micron pens from Hobby Lobby. These work really well. Or I purchased these. They're like really fine line pens from Amazon. Those are also really great to color code. They have all the colors in there. Those are great for kind of color coding the subjects. So the very first thing that I do is I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna use a black for this. I'm gonna write out this one. It's a little thicker, the tip of that. Some of them are really thin on these like microns. So I'm trying to get you to see there. So I'm gonna write in the subject. So the very first subject we do every day is going to be like morning / Bible. And I'm just gonna fill all of these in. So now that I have all of my subjects across the top up here, I'm going to get out my guide here, my Intro to World History Year 1 of 2. And I did this a little differently than I did last year. If you watched the other video where I used the actual guide, this year's a little different. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I am going to look and see what the verse is for the next week. So we're gonna be on week 17 in this curriculum. And I'm gonna see that our memory verse is gonna be Psalm 23, 1 and 2. So I'm just gonna write that in right here on our Monday time. So the next thing I wanna note in the guide is that Fridays are actually our Mondays. And what that means is that on the 16th, this day 80 right here, that would be a Friday, I'm gonna fill all this out for this Monday because we have co-op on Monday mornings. So from our HBL for this Monday, there actually wasn't a whole lot for me to write because we are doing a Bible reading to finish off what was on this Friday. But we are actually opting to not do history this day, and we're probably gonna double up on Tuesday, just because this is gonna be a really busy day for us. And we're actually not reading the book in here for finishing this up because this will be our last day that we're gonna be reading through Farmer Boy. So I'm scheduling that as our read aloud for Monday, but that's all that came out of the guide for HBL from Sonlight. So now I'm gonna move on to week 17 and show you how to plug all that in. So for Bible, it's super simple. We're just gonna plug whatever is on here in the Bible section, just straight down this morning in Bible time. So we'll have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I'm just gonna go straight down the morning Bible time and plug that in. But before I do that, I'm gonna write in Morning Starter because we do a Morning Starter book every morning. This stands for Leading Little Ones to God. That's our devotional. I'm just gonna plug that in and put the page numbers. You see I messed up right there, so. So you see I started to mess this up. I will wipe that out, but I started to write leading little ones to God the next day, when really we only have it 2 days and they're separated by a day. So something else I wrote in here is we do memory verse every morning. Awana, she practices her Awana verses I like for at least 5 to 10 minutes working in her notebook because she's in TNT this year. And she practices her piano because she does private piano lessons. So I put all that in. That's our normal morning routine. Morning starter, our devotional, Bible reading, her memory verse, which we use the disc that comes with this, her Awana, and her piano. That's our morning time. And so that's all scheduled now for the rest of this week. Now I'm going to move on to history and kind of skip over language arts because that's separate resources and I'm still pulling from this. So the history is going to just be this history and geography section, and I'm just going to work straight through this. Obviously, this is going to be on the following week because that is a Friday, and that's actually going to be our Monday, which is our co-op day, and they're usually a little lighter. So I prefer to do that as a Monday. And what you'll notice is we're going to have to double up on a couple days because this day back here, our day 80 right here, this was a Friday, we didn't get this chapter 16, and so I'm gonna fill that in right now for the history on Tuesday. And this is gonna be Child's History of the World, that's Chow. And that's gonna be 16. And we're also gonna have notice in here it has these little pieces here, these little things. This is gonna mean that we're gonna have our timeline, map work, and a figure to actually color and put in our timeline. That's what that right there is gonna mean. So I'm gonna write those things in. And we actually are going to be finishing up a hands-on history thing also on Tuesday of this week that we will work. So you'll see, I doubled up. This is our Wednesday. I decided for that to be the day that's doubled up. It just makes sense. So we will have our Child's History of the World 17 that's in here, but then we're gonna have this Usborne World History that was right here, 52 and 53. And that way we can double up that day. And this is usually a really light day when you just have that. So it won't be as light because we're doubling it up. Something else that you'll notice I've added into here, so these 2 days just have the world history. This says state study. So that's one thing we are continuing from my father's world. We're just continuing the states. So I'll just pull into here and find, because we're not using that guide at all, it drives me crazy looking at it. Our next state is Kentucky. So I will just write that in. So next I'm gonna be using the Sonlight guide to plug in the readings, the literature readings. So what that's gonna look like, we were reading Farmer Boy. We will finish that on Monday. We're gonna start on this Happy Times in Noisy Village. So I'm gonna write. Something else that I like to do, I don't always fit this poetry in every day. Tuesdays, we're gonna do a poetry tea time. I'm just gonna write that in. And I just catch up during our poetry time. I'm just gonna catch up anything that I haven't got to, and I just look at the last page that we've completed in our poetry readings, and that's where we pick up at, and we just read through where we're supposed to be at according to this guide. I don't schedule all of that poetry reading in. Now I'm to the part where I need to schedule language arts. This is the language arts in this binder for the Sonlight grade 3. So I'm not doing their spelling. I'm not doing, which also would include this activity, or their phonics. So that's just all like void. The handwriting, I'm just gonna write cursive in for that. And I'm actually not even gonna be on this reader.
Normally, I would have recorded the reader we are working on in our Erin Condren planner, and I forgot to do that, but I did go back and do it after this video.
This year so far, so I'm gonna write in the reader on my own. So this is kind of like not even necessary for me to look at. We do still do Wordly Wise once a week on Fridays. So I will write in Wordly Wise, but it's not even gonna be this week. But what we are on for this week, which seems kind of silly the way this is, based off where we're at, but we use this copy work and the application and some of that. So I'm gonna be filling some of that into the language arts spelling. So what I'm actually gonna be plugging in for this is gonna be different than what it looks like on here, because we will not start anything in our Sonlight until Tuesday because we have co-op this day. So that will start with copy work. And what's gonna also look different, even though we're starting with that copy work on Mondays, it's gonna look different because we're gonna do that copy work application on Wednesday. So I can write that in, and I just abbreviate it, copy work application there. But what's really gonna look so much different is that I'm also gonna start pre-writing on Tuesday. So that's gonna look like this, where we're learning this pre-writing, the persuasive letter. That is gonna go here. And then because I started that on Tuesday, we're gonna actually on Wednesday begin writing our persuasive letter. Now this next copy work, I usually will save for later in the week. I'll put it on Thursday, but if for some reason we can't get to it, that's fine. And we will have Wordly Wise on our Friday. And that's gonna be our vocabulary. And the reason we might not get to this is because this persuasive letter, I do this earlier in the week so that she has time to finish it and she doesn't feel like it's all crammed into the same day. Cursive, I'm just gonna write this in. It's just gonna say cursive each day. And when we get to what we're working on, so if we are working on like a K, then I will just write a K next to it in pencil the day that we actually are working on it, because sometimes she gets more done and I don't really like to schedule it out because some letters are easier than others and she might finish a whole page in a day and other letters might take her a week. So I don't schedule out what letter, we just work through the book in order. Next, we're gonna do spelling, and spelling's probably the most self-explanatory. It's so simple. All I'm gonna do for spelling is just open this up and see what week we're on. So we are gonna be on week 20. We were on week 19. So all I'm gonna write in here is we start our spelling on Mondays. So I'm just gonna write spelling 20A. The next thing we have to put in is science. So I'll show you, this is my science. I found it. And this is a science notebook that we're keeping the pages in. And we also have, because we're working on the human body, this, we're building a human body on the wall using this workbook. Well, it's not a workbook, it's like a reproducible. So that's all in this science binder. But I'm just gonna pull from here what we're gonna teach. And I have a workbox system, which I will share in another video, where I pull the sheets that we're working on and put them into here, and that way I can like check them at the end of the week. and then I put them in, well, she puts them in her binder after they're checked. And I have that for multiple subjects, and so I will be pulling from here to put into here as I'm scheduling. Something else I want to note is that we're only going to be doing 3 days of science this week. We're going to save our Friday to try to do some nature study and have a lighter day this day. And we're not going to do anything on this Monday. So when I'm plugging the science in, I'm just going to be pulling from here. We've done 2 of these days already, so I don't necessarily just follow this. Like, this is not always a week. Sometimes this is a week and a half or so. It just depends on the week we're having. So for this week, I'm going to pull these 2 and then this. And we're going to have a whole day of makeup magnet experiments on Thursday. And then these 2 lessons, or I'm sorry, these 2 lessons here, I'll plug into where they go. So you'll see here, I've put the human body, the page numbers, and then this number 4 to 5 is going to be the worksheet numbers. Like, that's the number she's going to be doing on her workbook pages. This is just going to be her magnet experiment day, where we're going to be doing tons of magnet experiments that we're catching up on. And then something else that I wanted to know is, so I'm going to schedule this Friday in from our Exploring Nature with Children. Sorry about that. This week is going to be the vernal equinox for our Exploring Nature with Children. So I'm just going to plug that in for science for that day. So next is going to be math. And all I do for that is I just write Singapore. It's really simple because the Singapore is one of the most open and go things we do. So what I tend to do is just get a pencil and write in what lesson we did for records. The first thing I'm going to put in this extra area, that's going to be things that we do every week. So every Tuesday, she's going to have a piano lesson. So I'm going to write that in first. Every Wednesday evening, we're going to have a WANA. So that's something that every week she's going to have. And that kind of helps me to see, or if there's anything special activity-wise, that helps me to see. So one of the main things going forward that I'm gonna need to schedule into our extra time, I like to put our Spanish, and my husband does Spanish with her, as I've said. So he just uses the complete book of Spanish, and this is one of those things that I will just come back and write in what got done. And so I scheduled that for 4 days this week. I'm gonna put typing. She uses the Good and the Beautiful typing program. Something else that I like to do is occasionally we will do workbook pages. So over here, I'm just gonna write workbook pages, and I will write down sometimes what we actually completed. And we have different workbooks we work in. So we have a couple Evan Moore things. We also have a Brain Quest workbook. And so if we do anything out of those this week, it just depends on the week if we get to anything, I'll just write that in right here. I reserve this top space to write in things that I'm gonna need to pick up or do. So one thing I need to do this week is set up her microscope, because we're going to be using it in some of our human body lessons where we're talking about just like smaller things like cells. So I'm gonna set up her microscope. Since I'm teaching an art class at co-op right now, I'm not super concerned with getting to like all the art lessons we could possibly get to, but I would like for her to fit in a couple of art lessons a week. Since this day and this day she has out of the house things, and this day I'm just gonna, Thursday's a little lighter, I'm gonna throw a drawing lesson into this day and kind of hope that we get to that. Some type of drawing or art lesson this afternoon. So this is it. This is what a week is gonna look like in my planner before we complete it. So I hope that was super helpful for you, just to see how with an only child, at least, I use an Erin Condren planner to plug in a Sonlight HBL with everything else we're doing for the week, and how that helps me to plan and keep records and keep track of what we're doing. Don't forget to hit like or subscribe to stay up to date on our homeschool, to stay up to date on the books we're reading, and just to see what's going on in our life. Thank you. I'll see you next time.